some people wonder how Blue Sky Bio can offer such great implants at a significantly lower cost than some of the name brand companies. And Corey Glenn posted, he said that the Sunshine Act allows you to go and see where all these implant companies' money goes. And they want you to believe that the price difference is research and saving orphans, but in reality, the difference is expenditure in reps, marketing, key opinion leader payments, big facilities, big events. And Blue Sky Bio just doesn't do any of that stuff, and it allows them to pass the savings on to you as customers. It's a purely web-based company. I was trying to track down where the headquarters of Blue Sky Bio was from their website to contact them about sponsoring the show. I was having a hard time. There was a few different addresses. Turns out they don't have some crazy big headquarters with all this real estate consuming all this money. And other than the fulfillment center, there's really no location to pay for. So maybe when you're starting off, it's an advantage to have a rep who comes out to your office to teach you. So if you haven't done a residency, you're not comfortable with placing, you're confused by all the components, sure, that's great to have a rep. But once you've got your placement down, you're feeling a whole lot more comfortable, that's when it's time to spread your wings and move on. And if you feel guilty, like, oh, but my rep, blah, 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 you'll see how many times reps switch companies, they quit, they move on. It's not like that one person, you now are indebted to them for the rest of your life. They helped you, you helped them, great, you move on. That's business. If you're ready to stop paying for the overhead of large companies, go to blueskybio.com/store. If you're overwhelmed by the options, you can't go wrong starting with the Biomax line. With one narrow platform for all their implants, it makes restoring and placing that much simpler. blueskybio.com. Okay, I am in the office of Dr. Zak Allmand, and we were introduced by Dr. Erin Elliot, and she connected us because we were talking, and she said, hey, if you're doing something on case acceptance, you need to talk with Zak. Zak has this amazing company. He's helped us set up really great payment solutions for our patients. And she's like, wait, you're in Indy? I think he's in Indy. And all of a sudden, via Facebook Messenger and the magic that occurs on Facebook, we realize like, he's right here in town. So like we are sitting face to face. Welcome to the show.
We are. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
This is weird because your practice, the name of your practice is Monon Family Dental or just
Correct.
Monon Dental?
Monon Family Dental.
The Monon Trail is this epic trail that runs through like the north half of Indianapolis. Or actually, how far does it run? Do you know?
You're stretching my knowledge.
It's your practice name. You should be like the Monon Trail expert.
Well, I should be, but the name has like a double meaning.
Okay.
Because I went to Wabash College, and the big football game between Wabash and DePaul is called the Monon Bell game. So it was a little bit of a nod to my college, but also we're a block away from the Monon Trail.
You're so close to the trail.
Right.
It's a double play there.
It is. But it also kind of, we're geographically locked into this position. We can never relocate or anything.
Yeah, no, it is very built out around here for sure. But for me, the Monon Trail takes me back to my first date that I went on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And we decided to go biking on the Monon Trail. So I loaded up some mountain bikes in my parents' old Ford Explorer, which was a stick. And I was just learning to drive stick. And so I may or may not have like stalled in an intersection on that date in getting to the Monon Trail. And traffic and parking is a little bit crazy. I think we were down in like the Pendleton area and
it adds authenticity to the date though, right? So I did not the same thing, but with my wife, our first date, I had a stick shift as well. It was an old Saturn SL1.
There you go.
And we were both in dental school. And I was going to take her to Scholars Inn Bakehouse. I don't know if you remember.
No, I don't.
No, it's no longer here, but it was a kind of an iconic bakehouse in Indianapolis from Bloomington. And I'm driving her to the restaurant. And we get there, and it is closed on Mondays.
Oh.
And then I panicked and tried to find somewhere else to go. Ended up driving the wrong way up an on-ramp on I-65. Finally find a restaurant, take her there, and I'm just sitting there. This date went horribly. She's never going to talk to me again.
Yeah.
And, 20 years later, wait, not 20.
I was going to say.
15 years later, we're married.
Okay. You're not old enough to be married 20 years ago.
Oh, I'm 40. I turned 40 this year. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't look it.
Well, thanks.
So IU School of Dentistry.
Correct.
She's a dentist as well?
She is, yes.
So does she practice here?
She does. So she right now is, for the most time, staying at home with our 2-year-old.
Okay.
Who I don't like to refer to him as a 2-year-old. I like to refer to him as 25 to life because he's just in that direction.
A little nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she works 1 day a week currently at an outreach clinic. She's the clinic director. She actually works with the school, with the dental students. So she'll treatment plan all of the fillings, extractions, and then when the dental students come through on their rotations, she'll oversee them and kind of get them out of hot water when they can't extract teeth and things like that.
Nice.
So she's keeping her hands wet for now.
Yeah.
Until we can kind of get him into a little bit more stable
situation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then she'll go back into dentistry. She's a much better dentist than me,
cool.
For sure.
Good for you, marrying up.
Oh, absolutely. I've definitely outpunted my coverage when it came to marriage.
That's awesome. So is she from here in Indiana? Is that how you decided to stay here?
So, yeah, for the most part. So we met in dental school. She was a year below me, and I joined the Air Force after 9/11 and went the HPSP route.
HPSP HUA. That's an Army HUA right there. I don't know if they do HUAs in the Air Force.
They tried to get everybody to do air power, and that's just ridiculous.
I got a bunch of half-hearted air power from the back of the room.
That's exactly right. And so then I did an AEGD, a 1-year AEGD out at Wright Patterson Air Force Base.
Okay.
And then we got stationed in Charleston, South Carolina. So she's been a trooper. She's our first year of marriage. I literally got done with basic and went to the residency for 2 weeks and then came back and we got married. And then I went literally the day after our marriage, I went back to the residency and she was still in school for a year.
Finishing up her senior year.
So our first year of marriage was commuting back and forth from Dayton, Ohio to Indianapolis on the weekends. So she's a saint for sticking
out with that. And then where'd you go after that?
So we went to Charleston, South Carolina, which was just an amazing duty station. Cool. We really enjoyed it, and we were pretty well established down there, but it's such a tough market for dentists.
Yeah.
I think at the time there was one dentist for every 700 people in the city.
That's rough demographics.
She had a great job. She has worked for 2 great dentists. A shout out to Chris Chadwick and Johan Kolmeden.
Okay.
And just a great spot. And then she got pregnant we had our first kid in the Air Force, and then she was pregnant as I was transitioning out. And when we found out that we were pregnant for the second time, she's like, I think we should move back to Indiana. I was like, hey, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So we moved back closer to family. Her family is still in Indiana. Mine's back in Michigan, where I grew up originally.
Okay.
But we're glad to be back here. That's a great spot.
So how long have you been in Indiana then?
So we've been back in Indiana since 2011.
Okay.
I did a brief associateship with my roommate from dental school down in Bloomington, Indiana.
Cool.
Kind of helped him grow that practice pretty rapidly. But then we just decided to move north to Indianapolis. Yeah. And my partner now in Monon Family Dental, it's kind of a funny story. I don't know how much time we have, but it all kind of played out during a baby shower over a case of beer.
Which is how all great dental deals play out.
So my partner, his name's Grant. His wife and my wife were sorority sisters, and she was in our wedding and my wife was in their wedding. And we were in Bloomington trying to figure out what we were going to do, and a mutual sorority sister was having a baby shower. And so we come up to Indianapolis, actually about a mile up the road, over by North Central High School, and we come up for the baby shower, and they're there, and Grant was looking at this practice, and he's like, "Hey Zach, I know you're in the process of buying it down in Bloomington. Can you just take a look at these numbers? Tell me what you think of this." He's like, "The practice, it's a pretty big practice." He's like, "I don't know if I want to take this on by myself. I don't really want to hire an associate. I just wish, if there was somebody that I could trust that I could partner with." And I'm like, kind of sticking my thumb back at myself. I'm like, how about me?
The numbers were looking good.
The numbers were good.
Okay.
I mean, we literally, the girls thought we were ridiculous, thought we were just joking around, but he and I literally split a case of Miller Lite and had all the details hammered out.
Okay,
wow. And then, so it just really happened organically.
It came together.
And like all good things do, I mean, it's just been a great blessing for our families.
That's cool. So that was, when did you guys close then?
That was in December. We closed in December of 13.
Okay.
So we kind of started the journey in July of 2013, and then we actually closed December 6th of 2013.
Okay. So now we're 2019, so solid 6 years. Well, almost coming up on 6 years.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
So you were sharing graciously, and I asked you beforehand if there's anything off limits. And I, like, personally, with my deal that just closed, I can't talk numbers. But we're a transitions podcast. I pump people for numbers all the time. And so I feel bad.
I should have said there are some.
Right. So, from your overhead numbers, you shared some amazingly low overhead numbers, despite the fact that you just bought a friggin' Prime scam that I'm staring at and salivating over right now. In the below sub 50.
Sure.
Can we call it that?
Oh yeah, we can talk.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about
sure.
it. So what's your overhead at right now?
So last month, and we just got our numbers from our accountant. It was 42%, which is higher than we normally like it.
That's a little rough for you guys.
Our best month was 37%. Wow. We are in between 39 to 41%.
And so just so you guys know, this is not like my wife growing up. Her dentist was in this like old crusty office. I think it was like Pendleton Pike area, and the bathroom was a closet that was converted to a bathroom, and there wasn't a sink in the bathroom. And they eventually left the office because of like rat traps under the furniture that they saw and some rat pellets.
I bet they were at 20%.
I bet they had some low overhead. This is not that office. This is a beautiful office that you have here.
Thank you.
So and it doesn't seem like you're overly cramped and smashing too much into a small space or anything like that. Have you grown the practice since you bought it in 2013?
We have, and we've kind of done it in chunks.
Okay.
We've been very intentional with the moves that we make. When we bought the practice, it was still paper charts.
Okay.
They had 2 computers in the entire office.
Wow.
And it was like rainbow confetti carpet. It was very tastefully decorated from the 90s.
Sure.
So in the doctors we purchased the practice from were great doctors, great individuals. This was one of the top practices in Indianapolis. The founder of the practice started the practice in like 1954.
Okay.
He's been in this location since the 70s. So it was an anchor for the north side of Indianapolis, but he just had stopped updating and renovating.
Sure.
Which, it's
past its prime. That's okay.
Right. But when we got in December, we immediately digitized the office. So we bought computers for all the operatories, got rid of the wall of charts. They're still in the basement to keep them.
Yeah.
But we digitized everything. We implemented large screen TVs in each of the operatories for case acceptance.
Cool.
We did intraoral pictures, and we started digital charting.
Okay.
That was 2014. And so then once we had that back under control, our next move was a renovation. Renovation would happen in 15. The office that we're sitting in actually used to stop. It was still at a door, but it was about 5 feet deep, and it was just a single row of computers or of desk stations for the doctors.
Okay.
And so we took on some additional space, put in a bathroom with a shower because my partner and I like to go to the gym over lunch.
Cool.
And just did we did a full renovation, paint, flooring, everything.
Yeah.
And that was 15, end of 14 into 15. And then 16, we implemented the CEREC. And then 17, we took a year off.
Decided not to spend a lot of money in 17.
Right. And then we're looking in 18 at cone beam. We had some other minor, like what I call minor major. Like we implemented implant surgery. So we added the motor and things like that. I do a lot of sleep apnea. We actually have some equipment, pharyngometer and things that to allow us to broaden the scope of our care.
Sure.
But our next big move is the CBCT, and then that's probably going to birth another CEREC mill that we can print or mill guides off of, or maybe a 3-dimensional printer, so
That'd
we
be
can
awesome.
do things like that. But
that's fun. That's exciting stuff.
But that's the whole reason we've been able to keep our overhead low is because we do it responsibly. I feel we never overextend ourselves. We try to pay things off either on the spot or in
pretty quick chunks.
Quick chunks. Like with the CEREC, we did it in 3 installments, but we did it in 3 installments because they gave us 0% interest. So at that point, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, let's do it. Do you mind? Do you remember what your collections were in 2013 and what they are now? You know, because to buy in 2 doctors as partners, and I don't know where your wife was in this picture at that time. Was this a 2-doc practice, a 3-doc practice? And what were the numbers so that you felt comfortable that there was enough to go around for?
So when we purchased it, it was what I would call a 1.5 doctor practice.
Okay.
Yeah, there were 2 doctors, but they were, reaching the end of their career. And so they were, one doctor was here 2 days a week. One doctor was here 2.5 days a week.
Okay.
Or 3 days a week. And so they were just kind of picking and choosing their dentistry. So,
okay.
Numbers wise, let's call it was, I think the average.
And just because you said you were comfortable sharing everything doesn't mean you actually have to be. You can change your mind mid-interview.
Okay. So we were, it was about a $1.4 million practice.
Sure.
And so
that's a doctor and a half practice. Yeah.
And so we grew it pretty significantly in the first year just because of the services that we added, but also there was over $1.5 million worth of treatment planned uncompleted work.
Okay.
So, and I feel that that's a big thing to look at when doctors are purchasing practices. Look at the philosophy of the selling dentist, because if you go through your chart review and see, man, this guy's done everything. Like he's not necessarily an aggressive treatment player, but if he sees something that needs to be done, he's doing it.
Yeah.
The well's going to be a little dry.
Yeah.
But if you encounter somebody who's, taking it a little bit slower and,
sure.
Maybe doing some patchwork here or there, that's an untapped gold mine of treatment. And especially if it's, we were really fortunate in the situation we came into, but because the doctors, they were, I don't want to say on cruise control, but it was a comfortable situation for them. They weren't really tracking their metrics.
Right.
And when we had our practice analysis done for the purchase, and they're like, oh yeah, there's $1.5 million worth of uncompleted treatment. They're like, what? Wait.
They're hearing this. They're like, wait a second.
Give us 3 more months in the practice. No.
Right.
So we were able to
feel comfortable
very quickly because of where we were able to, and not even have to like come in and sell dentistry. Right.
It was like accepted treat. It was on the treatment plan. It was like they already knew about it. They'd already talked about it, and they're like, yeah, we'll get to it.
And so that's one of the big struggles of a practice purchase too, is because when you come into a practice as the new doc, there's naturally a hesitancy for these.
Do we trust this new guy?
Right. Or he's trying to pay off his student loans.
Right.
Oh, he's over treatment planning and things like that. And literally for the first 2 years, we were having to tell people, or we found ourselves telling people, you don't need this right now. Like you need something else.
Yeah.
Like you don't need 8 veneers. We need to address this tooth that's literally broken off here.
Yeah.
And let's take care of that. And let's put that elective work off. And it just allowed us to build a rapport with the patients more quickly and more organically.
Cool. Yeah. Well, so this is really cool because I feel like we've gotten your journey and we've established that you're a very normal doctor on a great trajectory. And now you somehow have like a finance company, like not a finance company, but like a merchant services company, software company. How'd this happen?
Well, I've got a pretty active brain, so I don't really like to just sit.
I feel like that's like a weird humble brag.
No.
My brain is really active.
No, it's
works
not
out.
a humble brag. It's I don't sleep very well because I'm just sitting here. Oh, this.
What about this?
So
you see problems and you can't stop thinking about them.
Correct. And again, this so the merchant services company also came up very organically. I've just been very fortunate in the way things have happened. I can't like take too much credit for, oh man, I really grinded this out and made this happen.
Your transition story already shows that. I mean, you a case of beer and a sorority hookup, just got you into this practice.
It's a recipe for success.
Right.
Okay?
Everyone just do that.
I should write a book. I really should.
You should.
But no, so So in my time in Charleston, one of my neighbors, who is one of my very best friends, he was in commercial banking as a lender. And this was right before the economic collapse. And so he's a pretty savvy guy, really savvy guy. He saw the writing on the wall, and through his relationships he had built in the commercial lending space, he had a good relationship with a merchant services company based out of Charleston.
And I'm going to stop you right there. So for some of our listeners, like, our show is an intro to a lot of business concepts that, like, they're not even thinking about. It's not on their radar. So what is, you say merchant services, what does that mean?
So that is the business of accepting credit cards and getting paid for those credit cards. Okay.
So being able to swipe your card.
Correct.
Or run a credit card, or, I want to pay, put it on this card, and you give it to a business, and the business is able to charge that card. That's your merchant services.
So we make the transition from the card swipe to putting funds into your bank account.
Okay.
So,
and that costs something. I think a lot of people don't realize that, like...
It does. And you're right. And a lot of people don't. And I didn't.
Yeah.
So back to the story. He decided to partner with this merchant services company, and he was growing it pretty rapidly in the Charleston area. And so when we purchased the practice, we went through PNC, had a great lender. He's a great guy, and got us a phenomenal rate on our loan. And he was like, hey, here's some of the things you're going to need. You're going to need merchant services. I'll connect you with our PNC rep. I said, great, we trust you. We're going to trust this guy. And we got a quote, and just by happenstance, I got a competing quote. I think I got an email. Somebody said, hey, we can save you money on your merchant services. I'm like, sweet, let's take a look at it. And so, but the first thing he asked was, well, have you gotten any other quotes? Why don't you send that to me? And he beat it by just enough to make it make sense.
Like, oh yeah, sweet.
Oh, sure. But I was like, okay, well,
And so what does this quote look like? Like, to someone who doesn't even know what a merchant service is it like, are they charging you on a monthly basis? Are they charging you a percentage?
Yes.
Okay.
So it can be very convoluted and a little shady, to be honest, because there's monthly charges, there's per swipe charge. I mean, there's so many different layers of charges that we could go into like a 5-hour podcast on just the different how they can charge you and how to understand your statements, because there's these 5-page long statements with all these different fees and things like that. And so what you do is, or what I did is, I sent my statement to this guy, and he ran an analysis basically showing what I'm paying and what I could be paying with them.
Okay.
Right.
And so, like, okay, let me break this down, like, simply so that I can understand it. So if we say that we were going to charge $100.
Yep.
And there would be a certain percentage that would it be like I know at gas stations, some gas stations are like, you must buy at least $2 worth of something so that their minimum fee is covered. Is it like a 50 cent thing, or like a 2% thing, or
it's like
it's like $2 for $100.
It's about $2.50 to $3.
$3.
Yeah, between two. But let's say, so a broad stroke of the brush
industry
is between 2 and 3%.
Okay.
So, and different industries have different risk factors, so their percentages are going to be different.
Okay.
So,
and then on top of that, like, say that we've got like a little swipey machine, we've got to either rent that or buy that, and then there's just like an ongoing service charge.
Never rent that.
Okay. Well, and that's what I'm trying to figure out how they could be charging you a bunch of different fees.
Sure.
And then there's like a service fee to have your account open.
There's a monthly fee. There's a statement fee to get your statements. There can be an electronic statement fee. There can be, they can literally put in any fee that they want to, because most people get to about the second page of their statement and it looks like Greek to them, and they just say, I'm just going to file this away. It is what it is. It's a cost of doing business.
It's like whole life insurance. It's so complicated.
Let's not talk about whole life insurance, because I have a whole life insurance policy.
I'm sorry. Painful topic.
It is such a painful topic. So anyway, so yeah, and this could be a different conversation for a different day.
I just want to help people understand, like, what this looks like.
Sure.
If they're running a business and they need to get merchant services, what does that mean? Okay, so now you've got this friend, savvy guy.
Yep. So
he beats your quote, and you're like, okay, you beat my quote just barely.
No, so this wasn't my friend. This was just some Joe off the street.
Okay.
And so then I at least had the smarts to say, hey, wait, I've got a friend in the industry. I'm just going to ask him
Was this?
What's this look like?
Yeah.
Because I went to him, I was like, look, I know you're doing like bars, restaurants, in mom and pop shops. You're not in the healthcare space, but can you help me to understand and explain these? He's like, dude, it's credit card processing is credit card processing. You don't need to have some special system. It's just, do you work within the space? So he's like, here's what this rate is. Here's kind of what you should be charged. Here's this fee. This is an unnecessary fee. We won't charge you that. He's like, let's run my system in your office to see if it works. Kind of beta test it, right?
Sure.
And then we'll go through what are the pain points in a dental practice, what are some areas where we could help out, make it easier for you to accept payments, and then we'll kind of like go from there.
Sure.
Lo and behold, it worked perfectly, no problems. And so then we, through the process of growth and looking at, okay, here's what the functionality I want of it. Like, I want to be able to have website integration. This company over here is going to charge me $100 a month and 4% to do that. He's like, well, we've got a platform that it's included with your service and it doesn't cost anymore. Oh, sweet.
Great.
I want to be able to store credit cards because right now my office manager is storing them on a Rolodex, which literally happened. And he's like, well, we have an encrypted cloud where you can store this at no risk to you. Oh, perfect.
So I just want to understand, like, did she, like, because it's like each Rolodex card would be like
an individual patient.
It's almost like a copy of their credit card. She like copies down their name, copies down their credit card, copies down their patient info.
Yep.
So if she wanted to, she could go on a shopping spree. Obviously not going to. But if the cleaning lady who came in or someone who broke into your office stumbled upon this Rolodex,
at least she locked it in the drawer. Okay. Like I said, full transparency here. I'm fully prepared to put my missteps out on the table.
We appreciate it. I'm not trying to. This is the system that you bought, not
correct.
The system.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Absolutely. And so, I'm like, oh my goodness, that makes sense. So I don't have to have the risk and the liability of somebody's card information being stolen.
Yeah.
Oh, take that. I don't have to worry about the risk and liability of an online transaction. Okay, you put that on your shoulders. I don't have to store any information either on a Rolodex or in my practice management system.
Right.
Perfect.
Or in a Google Doc or somewhere stupid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there was that, and then we added the payment plan piece. And the payment plan piece is really what put it all together and just really made it very attractive, simple, and easy because it's allowed us to be more flexible with our payments, and it's really accelerated our case acceptance, treatment plan acceptance.
Which is why we're having this interview.
Right, exactly. Somewhere along the line, we're going to get to it.
Now we finally got into it. Okay.
So it's basically we offer merchant services at the most affordable rate in the industry, bar none. But we also have these value-added pieces of the website integration, the encrypted credit card storage, online reporting, and for me, what I think is our shiny penny is the payment plan management software tool that we have.
Cool.
Because just going back to the office manager that we had with the Rolodex, she would come in on Fridays because we're not open on Fridays. And she would make phone calls to authorize payments, and she'd be here for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm paying her $35 an hour to make phone calls.
To go through the Rolodex.
That with our software now, the payment plans run automatically with no additional man hours. So not only am I saving money on the merchant services side, I'm also saving money in man hours.
Right.
So like the savings were just astronomical.
So, and this, it sounds like this started off as like you exploring this with your friend who already had this business set up. And then at some point the light bulb like turned on and you're like, man, this is awesome. We should do this for other people that want the same thing.
January 1st, 2016.
Okay.
And it was literally like hey, this is great. We had been signing on like my friends. I was like, hey, you guys need to check this out.
Yeah.
And he was like, why don't we take this on the road?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And at first it really was like we talked about in the first 3 months, it started really as a way, like even if we didn't get a ton of clients, it was a good way for him and I to stay connected. He's down in Charleston. I'm up in Indy. It was just, we'd had, just phone calls. We'd end up, shooting the shit. Hopefully that's okay to say on your podcast.
Bleep it. It's okay.
And it was fun. But as we've grown, like it's been pretty meteoric growth. Like it's still fun, but it's definitely work now, you know, but it's great because I really enjoy it. I do it. I practice this like I practice dentistry. I like to sleep at night when my brain can shut off. But I like to be able to go to bed knowing I'm doing the best that I can for people.
Cool.
And it's nice because I get to work with people doing startups that are so freaked out about the process and don't know, you know, heads from tails. And those are the people that get taken advantage of the most because they have these slick salesmen that say, oh, well, we've got this and this. Okay, yeah, sign me up. That sounds good. And then maybe 3 years down the road, they realize, oh, man, I've been
6% for merchant services.
Right.
What's the worst you've ever heard?
Well, there's a couple. The worst I've seen is about 5.75%.
Wow.
But it was a weird way. They were charging them every day, but then also recharging them at the end of the month.
Huh.
And so it's like they're paying double fees.
Oh, my goodness.
And I've had one... bless her heart, like we were able to save her so much money that she refused to believe it and hung up the phone crying. And I never heard from her again.
Oh.
But it was, you know, you get into that like high stress situation.
She never signed up with you guys?
No, she didn't. And you know, we reached back out and I don't know what it was.
That's
you could tell she was
okay.
overwhelmed.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, she was overwhelmed with everything.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't think the practice was going that well, but and she was just like, I think she realized she was just hemorrhaging money everywhere. And this might have been the straw that broke the camel's back, or it might be how
maybe she got out of dentistry after that phone call.
Yeah, my hope and what I really hope, and this does happen sometimes, like I will create quotes for these people and show them what we would charge, and then we won't hear back from them, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I just took this to my existing merchant and they matched your rate. I'm like, great, we're saving you money.
Right.
But why would you work with somebody that wasn't giving their best foot forward?
Was like, okay, I'm going to screw you over until you notice.
Right. That's exactly right. But I don't care. Like I really I look at it from an altruistic standpoint. Like I'm helping my colleagues, and if I can help them reduce their overhead or cut their fees, like they don't have to worry about that piece for their practice, and they're saving money, so they don't need to worry about, am I going to be able to pay the staff? Am I going to be able to pay myself? You know, it frees us up to do the greatest good in dentistry and practice dentistry
the way we should.
To buy a prime scan. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, well, so now if you sign up, then first off, I don't even think we've said the name of your company.
Nope, we haven't.
What's the name of your company?
It's called Apex Payment Solutions.
Apex Payment Solutions.
So you want to hear how I came up with the name?
This is hilarious. You go, and then I've got a follow-up story here.
Okay. So when we were thinking of it, I'm like trying to make it dental specific. I'm like, okay.
Naming's hard.
We've got the apex of the tooth.
Sure.
But we also have the apex of the pyramid, or the top of the mountain, right? So we're keeping you on top by looking out for your bottom line. And then, so that,
Yeah. That seems like you're trying a little hard.
I was really proud of that. No, I'm not. We're going to, this is a rebranding issue.
No. That's awesome. I love it. I will say that, I started, I got my realtor's license in dental school, second year of dental school in the evenings, and started a company. It was like, I can't even remember the full name of it now, but all I remember is that I put solutions in there because I was like, I want people to know that we have the solutions. And then after that company went nowhere. But
you didn't have the solution.
They did not. After that, all I noticed was how many businesses have the name Solutions in the title. So I'm excited. You actually have solutions.
We do.
Legitimately, you can have that in the title.
We can own that. Yeah.
You can. You should. You should be proud of it. So now that I've made fun of your name, I'm sorry.
This interview is over.
Apex Payment Solutions?
Apex Payment Solutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. It's on the laptop.
www.apexpaymentsolutions.com.
I was going to say, you told me right before this interview that you now have the honor of being in an exclusive group of people who've been kicked off Dental Town.
Wow.
And
we're going there.
Yeah. No, I don't think you should be ashamed at all. I think you should be proud. And it's funny because it comes down to this issue of there was a post
that I made.
That you made
Mm-hmm.
in 2016.
2016.
When you were a customer of your friend.
Correct.
About his services.
Correct.
And then later, a company was formed that you now run.
Correct.
That you now are in charge of. And so, in retrospect, if someone somehow reported, this is like in 2019, somehow a post got tagged or reported that old, that made it look like, well, you were self-promoting. At the time, you weren't self-promoting because the company didn't exist.
Unintentionally. And I completely respect the decision. I completely see where they're coming from, because it does look a little bit dishonest in the sense that
you're giving him too much credit.
But it was, to be honest, it was from 2016. I don't remember that post at all. And then, and it was, they brought it up and they said, you've been banned. And I said, oh.
Permanently?
I'm guessing. I reached back out and I haven't heard anything. I tried to explain myself.
There's a lot of good people who've been banned from Dental Town. I don't think you should feel bad about this at all. We have a Facebook group called Shared Practices, which I think, are you in it now?
I don't know if I am.
I'll invite you after this.
You should.
We won't ban you.
Okay.
Even if you accidentally...
I make off-color remarks sometimes.
As long as they're nice off-color remarks.
I'm a very sarcastic individual.
Okay. So. You can be sarcastic to me and anyone else that you know previously.
Right. I don't make sarcastic comments to people I don't know.
I just want to clarify. I called it a safe space the other day, and someone was like triggered that I called it a safe space. I'm like, what do you call someone who's triggered by the term safe space? Like, we need a safe space for that kind of person too.
Yeah, I don't even know, because that's like safe space on top of safe space.
They want to be safe from safe spaces.
Yeah. Okay.
So, let's bring this podcast interview back. Before we lose people. One of my best friends, Abe, went to go try on some loops with Q Optics, and he sent me a text of his angle of declination from the side. So there's this picture of him with his old loops on, and then a new picture with the Q Optics loop on. His question was, is it really this big of a difference? It was about a 15-degree difference in how far forward he was having to angle his head. He's going from with the Q Optics loops on, he had almost like a slightly forward neutral head position. With his old loops, you could tell he was leaning his head forward and was having to strain his neck every single day to do dentistry. So to answer the question, is it really that big of a difference? Yes, absolutely. 15 degrees, it's huge. He was blown away. He's loved them. I've loved them. You should try them out. If you want to test run a pair of Q Optics loops against your old loops, email sales@qoptics.com and include the promo code SP19 to get a discount off your loops and light combo. You now have this company that makes it really easy for people to integrate merchant services and in-office payment plans for patients.
Correct.
What does this look like if you were to turn around and someone were to sign up and they were to say, hey, I want to do this. I want to switch over my merchant services and I want to introduce payment plans in my office. Is that kind of like your ideal client? That's like where someone needs to be in that mental space to kind of work with you guys.
Yeah, because the ideal situation is somebody that's ready to hit the ground running with all of the functionality of the platform, right? Like they've built a website because we can provide the code to provide like a payment portal on their website. And then they're ready they want to do in-office payment plans. My favorite thing is the in-office loyalty plan.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of companies out there that will charge you either a monthly or annual fee to give you your pricing for the month. Like I think it's borderline ridiculous. Like to pay somebody to say, okay, give everybody a 25% discount off of your services and charge them $400 a month or $400 a year. Well, I can figure that out.
Okay.
And what am I paying you for? Oh, well, you're paying us for our online platform that tracks these patients. Well, I have an Excel spreadsheet. What am I paying you for? Well, we've figured out and then at that point, it's just like, no, I can do this by myself so easily because I'm not running the payments, because that's what they'll say. Oh, well, we send out the reminder that the patient has to pay their monthly or annual fee. And so with our platform, when you create these payment plans, you can completely customize them already. So we have patients for our in-office loyalty plan,
right,
that we set them up, and we set them up either on an annual, monthly, or quarterly schedule to pay the premium for the plan.
Sure.
And it runs automatically. And we say, would you like this to run for a year, or would you just like to just stay in the program until you tell us to stop? Most people are like, just set it up automatically. And, we're never leaving your practice, so we just want to be part of it. Don't have to remember anything.
Yeah.
Because we put them in an Excel spreadsheet, just that they are part of the plan. And then the payments run automatically. We get email notification from the platform when a payment runs. The patient gets an email notification. We make the adjustment in the ledger and Dentrix, and it takes 2 seconds, and that's it.
Cool.
And so, I was talking to a doctor today, actually, that we were able to see he had a great rate on his merchant services. I was running him a comparison just as his annual checkup.
Sure.
And he, pretty savvy guy.
Yeah.
He's like, look, I got a great rate. You're not going to be able to beat it, but I'll give you a shot just so I'm making sure.
Yeah.
We could save him like $25 a month. Not a huge savings.
Sure.
But then we were talking about things, and he's like, wait a minute. Do you do in-office payment plans? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, what company are you using in your practice? I'm like, my own. He's like, well, what do you pay, what do you charge people for that? I'm like, it's included with our service. He's like, I'm paying $300 a month. So the savings went from $25 to $325.
So basically, if I get this right, you do merchant services for them, but your software and platform built on top of that can also handle monthly payments and financing options, and you can also use it to set up membership, like in-office membership plans.
Correct.
So if you are paying for either of those things, switching your merchant services isn't just going to save you whatever percentage for switching. It could also potentially save you if you're paying someone else, or give you that added functionality if you're not doing in-office financing plans.
And also save you money, like I said, on the man hours if you're already doing it in office, but
someone has to run it.
Yeah, exactly. You're paying Mary to come in on Fridays at $25, $30 an hour to run all those payments. Well, we can completely eliminate that and automate it, and then you're saving that money on your overhead.
Okay, cool. So now that we have a good idea of what this can do for us and how it could work and how you might evaluate, is it worth it for me to go get a quote from you guys? Let's take a look at an acquisition where someone isn't necessarily doing in-house financing, and they want to introduce this because they believe it's going to raise their case acceptance if they can offer their patients financial options. How would you recommend the nuts and bolts, when your team member normally is running a report to give the patients, here's what it's going to cost you, here's what your insurance pays, here's what it's going to cost you. How does this software kind of fit into that to make it really easy for your patients to see and get set up on a payment plan?
So I think the best example to illustrate this is an Invisalign case. Okay, so in our office, when we do a lot of Invisalign, and part of the reason we do a lot of Invisalign is because of our case presentation. So what we do is we offer no-cost evaluations where we'll take impressions, photos, work up the treatment plan in the ClinCheck software. And then we bring the patient back for a 30-minute consult to review the ClinCheck. But the most important part of that is the review of the financial options. Okay, so this is an easy way to implement this, because what we do is I'll work up the ClinCheck, and then I will meet with my treatment plan coordinator, and I'll say, okay, this case is going to take us, let's just for ease, let's say 10 months. For any payment plan that we're creating in my office, we require 25% down or lab expense, whatever is greater.
Okay.
And then we will break the treatment payments up over the course of treatment. So if it's an Invisalign case that's 10 months, we'll break it up into 10 monthly payments. Or if it's for crown work, we'll do 25% down and no less than $100 a month. And I'll get into why we chose that number. But going back to the Invisalign comment, so when the patient comes back and while I'm going over the ClinCheck, my treatment plan coordinator is calculating in our payment plan option sheet, here's your cost of treatment. Here's minus your down payment, leaves you a balance of this, which can be prepaid for a 5% discount.
Okay, number one.
Option one can be broken up into 10 monthly payments at no interest.
Okay.
Which is option number two.
Okay.
Or we can apply for care credit, but it will cost you the 9 or 10% interest.
So you push that back to the patients?
Correct.
So instead of offering care credit at no cost and eating that which is what I think a lot of doctors do.
A
right?
lot of doctors do.
You're saying, okay, here's an interest option through Care Credit.
Correct.
And Care Credit lets you do that.
The reason we do it, or the
we
reason...
can edit this afterwards. No,
sure,
go ahead.
We should edit this.
Should we? Dang it. Okay.
So we have eliminated Care Credit from the office because our option is so attractive. Because what we'll do is when we present Care Credit, if they can't do our 10-month in office at no charge, at no interest, their next step is going to be the 18-month Care Credit, and there is a charge to the patient on that. Okay. And so they're looking at an interest payment.
Okay.
And we try to steer them away from that.
Yeah.
So we would say, well, why, if we can break this down over 10 monthly payments
with no interest,
why wouldn't you want to do that? And so then I present my treatment, go over the ClinCheck, and then I say, and Lauren's going to come back with your payment options. She'll go over payment options. So Apex Payment Solutions utilizes the Clover system of payment portals, which are your card readers, basically. And there's one called the Clover Flex. The Clover Flex is a fully functional encrypted terminal that is wireless. So it charges on a charging stand, but you can take it from treatment room to treatment room. She comes back with the Clover Flex back into the treatment room and establishes payment at that moment.
Okay. We
do that for several reasons. First and foremost, privacy. Because when you're talking about larger, like $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 treatment plans, no patient wants to discuss that at the front desk with everybody around them.
Mm-hmm. They're already checked out mentally. They're ready to go.
Right. They're looking for the door. And my front office staff is worried about HIPAA compliance. Well, we can't actually discuss treatment when there's other people around, or can we? I don't know.
Right.
Are the HIPAA police going to come get me?
Right.
I don't want to go to jail. And so, but most patients, you're right. They're looking for the door. I'll call you later with payment. If we bring it to them in the privacy and comfort of that treatment room, then they're more accepting of treatment. It's all about lowering the threshold to treatment by giving them payment options and removing hurdles from accepting treatment, which is privacy, embarrassment. You have a 30-year-old woman who's looking at losing her front teeth or something like that. That's embarrassing.
It is.
It's
it's emotional.
It's very emotional. And we have patients that when we present treatment plans, they get very emotional, especially, if they have this expectation of, I'm going to get my teeth are going to be gorgeous. Wait a minute. It's going to be $15,000. I can't afford that.
Yeah.
So Lauren is back there. Hey, we understand that this is a big commitment. Here are your options. We can work with you. What will allow you to seek the treatment or to accept the treatment that you want?
Cool. So she's there finding solutions for Here comes the solutions. Yeah. She's there finding options for the patient that works for them. And she's able to be their advocate. And one thing that we're taking for granted here is that you and I and my co-host George and people like Dr. Scott Luna are very much on board with this idea that offering no interest financing options is not going to lose you money. People are for the most part not going to not pay. People actually pay for these things if you make it easy for them to pay for it.
Right. And the vast majority of people are not out there to screw us over.
Right.
So and there is that kind of
there's this credit score thing that people mostly care about.
Right. And people dentists, as dentists, we have a lot of our colleagues that are fearful. What do you mean? I have to have people prepay for their crowns. And it's I don't know that I'd pay for something before I get it.
Right.
It just seems a little off to me. We offer a prepayment. They can get online. They can do it through our website. You can prepay for your appointment online. We offer a 5% discount.
Right.
And so, it's adding incentives to that, but how do you make it happen? But for the most part, people are not out there to say, I'm going to get these 6 veneers and then I'm going to skip town. Yes, there are people out there, but there's just bad people out there.
Yeah.
Right. It is a little bit for us about reading the patient and knowing your audience. Right. So we have the luxury of being a well-established practice. We don't heavily advertise. It's a lot of word of mouth referrals. So the patients that are coming into us as new patients are connected to our existing patients somehow. And, there's a low likelihood that they're going to screw over the dentist that somebody referred them to.
Right.
I understand that in some practices where they're heavily advertising, heavily competing for patients, I understand that fear a little bit more, but it is a little bit about reading the patient. But that's why I have those thresholds in place in my office. 25% down, no less than $100 a month. Nothing that extends out. I don't like to extend anything out more than a year unless it's a really long term where we're doing Invisalign, then full mouth reconstruction or something like that. The reason behind that is if a patient can't afford the 25% down, they can't afford the treatment.
Right.
If a patient can't afford $100 a month, they can't afford the treatment.
Okay.
So, you're recouping, I said, the 25% down or the lab fee. In my mind, I'm at least covering my bases.
Right. The majority of your cost for that.
Other than that, it's just my time.
Right. Chair time and some supplies.
Sure. And we utilize the CEREC, so our chair time's cut in half.
Your overhead's like 42%. So for
on
you,
a bad month. On a bad month.
Hover, peaks at the apex of your
Right.
overhead is 42%. So it's easier for you to cover your overhead. But no, but I think that's awesome, and I love when Dr. Scott Luna talks about this, like having an option for patients who can't afford right up front all of this money. People need to have an option for people who don't have a bunch of cash sitting around.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's assume that our audience is on board with, okay, yes, financing at 0% interest is a great idea because we say so. Yes, it is.
It is.
Listening. Everyone, nod your head.
Yes.
If you're driving on your bike, wherever you are. I don't know how many people bicycle and listen to podcasts.
I do.
Okay, well, there you go. Hey, perfect. So now, okay, you've established these rules, 25% down and at least $100 a month.
Correct.
And then not more than 12 months.
Correct.
So those are the parameters that you've kind of
in
seen successful in your office.
Correct, yes.
How does your team present this? Because I'm thinking about like training a person who's never offered financial options and them just feeling like overwhelmed. Like, what do I tell the patient?
Role play.
Okay.
I mean, really, it's key. It feels awkward, and intuitively you think it's dumb. Man, does it work?
Okay.
It really does, because and so like when we established this, like the team kind of had fun with it, right? Like our assistants were the patients in the chair, and then our front desk was coming back to present treatment, and they just give them the hardest time. I just bought a Louis Vuitton purse, and just kidding.
We're going to the Cayman Islands,
right?
And I just can't afford this.
I've just got a massage, and my energy just is not in the right place.
Not feeling it.
Yeah. So, we turned it into a game, and so it became less silly.
Yeah.
Like they felt less awkward doing it, but it was just repetition and practicing. It's one of the things that we focus on is the whole office experience, because a lot of us as dentists, we focus on ourselves and our skills and how we talk to patients. But in reality, what gets case acceptance is how does the rest of the office operate? Because when we walk out of the door, we talk to the patient and they're nodding their head. Yes, doctor. Yes, doctor. We walk out the door and they turn to the assistant and they say, well, what would you do?
Yeah.
Or what did he say?
Right.
And then when they get up to the front desk and they say, well, I don't remember what he said about payments. I think he said I could do like $10 a month. Yeah. And if the staff is not on board and not properly trained, they're going to be like, I don't know. Well, let me go ask the doctor. And then it just creates this perception of non-uniformity that we don't have it together. Like this is not a professional office. So everybody has to be on board, from the assistants to the front office to the hygienist. And if we are all imparting the same message in the same manner, case acceptance goes through the roof.
Okay.
And we focus a lot about that because we talk about like our mission statement, like what's our practice philosophy? How do we practice dentistry? And our practice philosophy is we treat each patient like they're a family member in the chair. What would I do for my mom? What would I do for my wife? What would I do for my kids? what I want done on myself, that's exactly what I would do for you. And that's exactly what I'm going to suggest to you. And our team is on board. They've seen our dentistry. They believe us. Mm-hmm. And when they believe us, they tell the patients. And they are our biggest advocates for, Dr. Allmand really thinks you should do this. And I completely understand why, because here's what can happen if you don't, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then if we have the payment plans already worked out and they're coming to the patients with that, oh yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
So it takes time to get there. I'm not going to lie and say, hey, we figured this out overnight. 6 years into practice, and we probably really just nailed it down in the past year.
Cool.
So, and it's always it's a continuous growth.
And there's going to be new team members and turnover and
right.
changes and growth and all of those things. So the one question that I had in my mind is like, what's the smallest treatment plan amount that would trigger, let's offer payment plans?
$1,000.
$1,000.
Yep.
Okay. So if it's over $1,000, they charge 25%, then it has to be $100 a month. So that kind of, have you empowered?
And now with that, so and like I said, it's very case by case. So let's say we're doing $1,000 crown. They put 25% down, $250, at least $750. So if you do $100 a month, that's 7.5 months. Let's say 8 months or whatever. I'm sitting here thinking, no, for $1,000 treatment plan, it's a 3 or 4 month treatment plan. It is, but there are exceptions. There's always exceptions to the rules, but it
sounds like you've empowered your team that they know how it works.
Yeah, they don't have to come back to me and say, Dr. Allmand, Mrs. Smith really wants to do 8 months. Can we stretch it out to that? They know my answer is going to be no. She only wants to do $50 a month. No.
Okay. So I really like this because you've given them flexibility to work with the patients. It's not like, okay, you can do 3 months or 6 months or a year, and that's our options. It's like, here's what it is. Here's the rules. We can stretch this out. And like everyone can afford $100 a month. Like, I shouldn't say that. There are people who can't afford $100 a month. But the large majority of patients can afford $100 a month. And
the people that are motivated to accept the dentistry that will cost them that much can afford it.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is like literally, I mean, I went and got a caramel macchiato at Starbucks right before this, and it was like $5.15. And I'm like, holy crap. It's decisions though. Like, where do we decide to allocate our funds?
Right.
And if we impart the importance of it to the patient, they're going to see the value in it, and they're going to be accepting of it.
That's cool. I also just love how, because you've empowered your team, it goes back to that being the patient advocate, that really, if the patient kind of balks at whatever they first present, they can say, okay, how can we make this work? And they've got a set of parameters to be flexible and set something up for the patient. Then they put it in the system, and it does its thing. And they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to like, okay, but for this patient, they're doing it over 7 months. It's like, no, it's just all in the system.
Right. It allows me to not micromanage. And I hate micromanagement because I don't want to make every decision in the office. In a well-oiled office, you're the dentist. You're able to focus on the clinical dentistry. Everything should run itself. Does it? No. I'll be the first to admit, no, it does not.
Right.
But I'm trying to make it run itself.
Right.
And the more it runs itself, the happier I am, the less stress I have. And and I'm in a different position than a lot of dentists because I have a partner who's great, and we can burden the load together, and we can divide and conquer. But like this summer, we're transitioning to a 3-day work week.
Hey,
so he's like, we're going to alternate.
Are you doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Tuesday? No, we're never open on Fridays. We've never been open on Fridays. The practice has never been open on Fridays. With our hours, we just can't. We'd have to have an entirely
the Rolodex day used to be Fridays.
No, that's one thing they had right. They were never open on Fridays.
Okay.
But so like we'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So the office is still open the same amount of hours.
Cool.
The staff is still getting the same amount of hours, same pay, and we are. But it's allowing my partner and I more freedom to be with our kids.
Cool.
I mean, during the summer, it's like, it's just, we've got the systems in place now, and it's like, okay, now we can start to enjoy all the hard work and the sleepless nights. Because let's face it, when you're looking at practice acquisitions or startups, the first 6 months was hell.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep. I actually developed an eye twitch. And it was partially because I was taking in 800 milligrams of caffeine a day, but I needed it to stay awake because I wasn't sleeping.
That is
and then
a
I had
lot
the
of caffeine.
Yeah.
One Bang is 300 milligrams of caffeine. Have you ever seen those energy drinks?
So I used to drink 2 Bang a day.
Oh my goodness.
And a coffee.
I know someone who's had like a stroke because of their energy drinks. I've read some studies recently. It sounds like you're in a better place now.
But every once in a while, I'll do the 5-shot Americano with a splash of coconut milk. So,
it's okay. It's got some coconut milk in there. It's fine. Yeah.
It's natural. It's healthy. I do coconut oil pulling with it. Yeah.
Same thing with caffeine.
Yeah, absolutely.
It balances it out.
But it was, it's stressful. And just, we're getting to the point where we can, enjoy the fruits of our labor. And then I added this other company that I now have.
I know the problem. The man, I've only got 2 things going on. Let's add a third thing.
Right, absolutely.
It's a unhealthy problem to have.
It's a healthy, unhealthy problem.
Yeah. No, that was like when we were messaging, and I think the first night, it was like late at night, and it was like 9 p.m. or 9:30 p.m., and you're like, my wife is giving me the evil eyes, like that I'm still messaging. And I was like, well, do you have time for a phone call?
And what happened? I said, no. Well, okay, yeah.
Hey,
let's just do it. We're right here. We can do it. Let's just hammer it out.
We've got problems. Yeah. No, it's a good thing. Well, so if someone's interested in implementing this, whether they're doing a startup, whether they've got an existing practice, and what's the system for them to find out more about Apex Payment Solutions?
Sure. I always like first contact with all potential clients because I like to
kind of control freak.
Well,
sorry.
Can we edit that out?
No, that's staying in.
I just like to make that connection with fellow dentists.
Yeah.
Like and say, okay, what's your situation? Because then I can kind of gauge which of my sales team should I put them in charge.
Well, and where this is useful for them.
Right. And so it's the best way is to email me at zak@apexpaymentsolutions.com. And then I always lead with our pricing structure because I want to be transparent. Like that was the one thing that made me so mad. It's like people wanted to see what the other company's quote was.
Give me a quote from someone else.
Right, and I'll beat it.
Undercut them.
Right.
But still just leave a little gravy on the table.
Right. And so I lead with my best foot forward. Here's our pricing structure. If you want to see what it looks like in your current office, then we can do the cost savings comparison, plugging in the pricing structure I've already given you. And then you can see real dollar for dollar, what's your savings. But what I'll do is I'll connect you with someone on the sales team and we'll start the ball rolling. The process, we've really got it well oiled to, I like a 3-week lead time for startups.
Okay.
Because we have to get them the application. They have to get the application returned, which tends to be the biggest problem because everybody's busy and it gets put on the back burner.
Yeah.
So return the application and then we send an electronic agreement to do business. We have no contracts, no early termination fees.
In for
Nothing's
3 years.
locked in. Absolutely not. Because if I'm providing the service that I said I am and I'm doing it at the best price, why would you ever leave? Right?
And then people just buy their little
We provide the terminals at cost, at wholesale cost. They have to be boarded on our encryption technology.
What if I wanted to rent them at a 200% upcharge? Could you do that?
Gladly.
Okay, perfect.
But I will tell you up front,
don't do that.
You don't need to do this. We do have people that they're just like, no, I want to pay $40 a month. I can't afford the $400 up front. And I'm like, okay, but now you've been with us for 2 years and you've
saved.
Yeah. Okay.
That's fine. We'll do it.
But no, what we do is we lease the terminals until they've paid them off.
Cool.
Basically, I'm not trying to sell equipment.
You're not a terminal business?
Right. I'm trying to get you on board with the platform. So I'm, again, removing hurdles, lowering thresholds, right?
Cool.
So then we send the electronic agreement. As soon as that electronic agreement is signed, 24 hours to board your account, your terminal ships. With the Clover terminals, it's free overnight shipping.
Cool.
You get it in your office. It's pre-programmed, ready to roll. Once you get it in the office, you call your support technician. They run a test transaction with you, provide your staff with the online portal training. Boom, you're done. So once the application is submitted, 5 business days, and you're up and running.
Awesome. No, that sounds really, really simple.
It is.
Cool. Well, this was a lot of fun.
It was.
I really enjoyed this, and minor edits and
bleeping out curse words and taking out my care credit scam.
We love care credit. It's okay. Don't say anything else because then we'll have to edit this part too. But so people can reach out to you. thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This has been really, really good.
It's better in person. Podcasting in person really is
so much better.
It tends to go longer. We're at an hour and 1 minute, and people will have to get over that, but they'll enjoy it.
I'm worth it.
You are worth it. That's right. Okay, we will talk with you guys next time on the Shared Practices podcast.
Thank you very much.
See ya.